Story number 1. The man who ordered the same coffee at 3:03 a.m. I used to work the night shift at a Starbucks just off the highway, one of those locations that stays open 24 hours, mostly for truckers, insomniacs, or people coming from bad decisions. It wasn't all that glamorous. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead and the playlist looped the same soft jazz over and over until it became background noise you stopped noticing. The smell of burnt espresso never really left your clothes. But the job was easy enough, quiet, predictable. Most nights were slow. A few regulars would wander in, order their drinks, sit with their phones or laptops, then disappear before sunrise. I preferred the quiet ones. The talkative types always wanted to know why someone my age was working nights, or worse, if I was okay. I always said I liked the peace, which was mostly true. I first noticed him about 3 weeks into the shift rotation. It was exactly 3:03 a.m., not 3:00, not 3:05. I remember that because I glanced at the clock on the register when the door chimed. He stepped in like he'd been there before. Mid-30s, maybe early 40s. Neatly dressed, pale skin, dark hair combed too perfectly. No umbrella, even though it had been raining on and off that night. And yet, no water on him either. He came to the counter without looking around. Didn't say hi, didn't glance at the pastry case. Tall black coffee, he said. His voice was plain, not cold, just flat. No hint of tiredness or emotion. I rang him up. He handed me exact change, not a coin more. He didn't wait for the cup. Just stepped aside and stood silently near the pickup counter. I handed it over. Here you go. Have a good night. He didn't say anything, just took the cup and walked out. No thank you. No nod. I remember watching him go. Something about the way he walked, like he didn't make any sound, even though the floor was old and creaky in spots. But I didn't think much of it. People come and go. Some are just off. The next night, 3:03 a.m. again, the door chimed. Same man, same order, same flat tone. He paid an exact change, same mannerisms, same silence. I half joked to myself that he was a glitch in the matrix. This went on for about a week. Always at 3:03. Always the same. I started expecting him. I even had his cup halfway ready before he walked in. One night I decided to try and break the pattern, just for curiosity. When he came in and gave his usual order, I smiled and said, "Want to try something different tonight? We've got a new dark roast." He stared at me for a moment. Not angry, just confused, like I'd said something in a different language. "No," he said, and then quietly, "Just the tall black coffee." I nodded and made it. After he left, I watched him walk toward the back parking lot. But when I stepped out to sweep a few minutes later, the lot was empty. No footsteps, no car lights. Nothing but quiet. That was the first time I felt it, that subtle, sharp edge of unease. I mentioned it to my coworker Danny during a shift change once. She laughed it off, said, "Maybe I had a stalker." I laughed too, but it didn't feel funny. One night, I checked the security footage out of boredom just to pass time. It was around 4 a.m., slow as always. I scrolled back to 3:03, watched myself standing at the register. Then, I paused. I was talking. I could see my lips moving. I reached for the cup. Poured coffee. But the front door never opened. The chime never rang. No one walked in. I watched the footage twice, 3 times. No one was there. Just me, making a drink, handing it to air. I checked the log. The register had a transaction at 3:03. Exact change. I didn't know what to do with that. So I did nothing. I kept working. The next night, 3:03 came. I tried not to look at the clock, but I felt it anyway. The door chimed, he stepped in, same as always. Only this time, I couldn't meet his eyes. I felt something cold in my chest, like the temperature had dropped a few degrees. Still, I made the coffee. My hands trembled a little. He took it in turn, but paused at the door. Then, for the first time, he looked directly at me. You shouldn't watch the tapes. His voice had a low hum to it now, like it wasn't meant to be heard out loud. He stepped outside. The door shut gently behind him. I didn't move for a long time. The next day, I asked our manager to check the footage from his laptop. Said I thought someone might be sneaking in. He pulled it up casually while sipping his drink. We scrubbed to 3:03. He played it. Silence. I stood at the counter, cup in hand, talking to myself. Manager chuckled. You okay, man? You look like you're sleepwalking. I just nodded. That night, I showed up late on purpose around 3:15. I stood outside the store across the street, half hidden behind a tree. Waited. Nothing. No one went in. No one came out. Next night, I came back at 2:50, set my phone up to record. Just left. It angled toward the front. At 3:03, I saw the door open, but this time, he didn't walk in. He just stood there, looking through the glass at me. No expression, no movement. He didn't blink. I couldn't breathe. The chime never rang. And after maybe 30 seconds, he turned and walked away. I checked the footage later. The door didn't open. The footage showed no one there, just me, staring at nothing. The next night, I called in sick, and the night after that, they stopped putting me on night shifts. Weeks passed. Then, 2 nights ago, I got a message from Danny, just a photo, no caption. It was the store's lobby, empty, except for one person at the counter. Him, exact same posture, same coat, same blank stare. Timestamp, 3:03 a.m. Under the photo, Danny just wrote, didn't hear the chime. I haven't replied, but last night I woke up at 3:03. My phone lit up with a notification. Front door camera, motion detected. I didn't look. And this morning my phone was dead. Though I hadn't used it, the battery was full when I went to bed. I'm not working there anymore. But some nights, around that time, I still feel like I'm waiting for the door to open. And sometimes I think it already has. Story number 2. Don't write my name. I've worked at the same Starbucks for almost 2 years now. It's not glamorous or exciting, but it's steady. And I know the routine like the back of my hand. Morning shifts are usually the busiest. Regulars coming in half asleep, grumbling about their commute, waiting for their caffeine to kick in before they remember how to smile. We write names on the cups. That's the norm. Most people are used to it. Some spell it out. Some give a fake one to be funny. Others just grunt something, and we guess. That day started like any other. It was a Wednesday, I think. Late morning. Overcast. The line was long, steady. I'd fallen into autopilot, scrawling names, taking orders, sliding cups down to the bar for Liz to make. And then she stepped up. She looked to be in her late 20s. Long black coat, frizzy hair pulled into a low ponytail. No makeup. Pale, but not sickly. Her eyes lingered a little too long on mine. Not aggressive, just still. Hi, I said. What can I get started for you? Grande oat milk latte, she said, voice soft, low. I reached for the cup. Name for the order? There was a pause, just long enough for me to glance up again. Don't write it, she said. It caught me off guard. I blinked. Oh, sure, I laughed, trying to keep it light. I can just call it out, no worries. No, she said. I mean, just don't write it at all. Her tone wasn't angry, more like pleading, but quiet, almost embarrassed. I nodded. All right, no name. She watched me write nothing on the cup, then watched Liz make the drink, waited silently, took it, and left without another word. It stayed in my head longer than it should have. People have quirks. Some don't like their names mispronounced. Some just don't want it on a cup. But there was something in her face, like she was afraid of it. The next day she came again, same order, same time, same coat. I remembered. No name, right? She nodded quickly. Her eyes flicked to the marker in my hand. The routine became normal after that. She'd come in 3 times that week, never gave her name, always the same drink, always that faint tension like she was holding her breath. On Saturday, we were slammed. Liz had called out, and the new guy, Omar, was shadowing me. I was writing fast, barely looking up. She was in line. I didn't notice until it was too late. I took her order, slid the cup over, and out of habit scribbled down, Maria. It was a guess. Soft-featured, maybe Hispanic. It just came to me. As soon as she saw it, she froze. Her mouth opened slightly. No words came out. Her hands trembled just a little. Sorry, I said. I forgot. She turned and walked out. Didn't wait for the drink. Didn't look back. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying her face. How quickly the color drained from it. The way her hands clenched at her coat sleeves. The way she walked out like the place was on fire. I didn't see her the next day. Or the one after that. Monday morning, around 8:30, she returned. She looked rough, eyes red, lips chapped, darker circles under her eyes. She waited until there was no line. Can I talk to you? She asked. I stepped around the counter, suddenly very aware of how quiet the cafe was. Only 2 people sat near the window, heads down. She leaned in slightly. You wrote my name. Yeah, I didn't mean to. Someone died that night. I blinked. My cousin. I hadn't seen her in years, but she was family, and she died. Car accident. I didn't know what to say. I stood there, heart starting to pick up a little. I don't know how it works, she whispered. I don't know why, but every time someone writes my name, she looked away. It started 3 years ago. First was a barista, then a nurse, then my friend. Every time someone writes it, physically writes it, someone close to me dies. That can't be real, I said. But it didn't come out strong. More like a thought. I wasn't sure I believed myself. I don't expect you to understand. I just want you to never do it again. I nodded. She left. That would have been the end of it, honestly. But I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. I told myself it was coincidence. It had to be. She was just dealing with trauma, maybe, trying to find a pattern in loss. Still, I looked it up. Car crash Saturday night. Woman named Cassandra Delgado, 29th. Listed as a distant cousin of someone named, Maria Delgado. I felt cold. I didn't see her again for almost a month. I'd nearly pushed the whole thing out of my mind. Then, just before closing, one night, she walked in. She looked different. Calm. Too calm. I just came to say thank you, she said. For what? You didn't write it again. No one else did either. I smiled weakly. Of course. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? She said. I nodded. What name would you write down tonight if I asked you? I paused, confused. I don't know. Your real one? She stepped forward, lowered her voice. Write it, she said. Just once more. For you, not for anyone else. My mouth went dry. I thought, she smiled gently, I just want to see something. Something in her tone felt off, softer than before, but hollow. I shouldn't. Please. I don't know why I did it. I think it was her eyes. There was something so resigned in them. I took the marker, picked up a clean cup, hand shook just a little, and I wrote it. Maria. She looked at it. Her eyes welled up, but she didn't cry. She nodded. Thank you, she said. It has to end somewhere. She turned and walked out. That was 2 days ago. I've checked the news. Every hour. Nothing yet. No crash. No obituary. No cousin. No tragedy. But this morning when I woke up, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. No voicemail. Just a text. He always loved you more. I don't know what it means, and I don't know who he is, but my brother's been calling me all day, and I can't make myself answer. The phone's still ringing, and I don't think I want to know what he'll say, or if it's even him on the other end. Story number 3. The silent table. I've worked the evening shifts at Starbucks for about a year now. Not quite the late-night graveyard crew, but close enough to see the store empty out, lights dim, and things go quiet in a way that's different from the daytime hum. I like the slower pace, less noise, fewer people. Most of my shift is just wiping down counters, stacking cups, running inventory, mundane stuff. We get a couple of students hanging around with laptops, and now and then a tired couple whispering over shared cake pops. But there's this one table. It's in the back corner by the window. Small, square, 2 chairs, just far enough from the counter that you can't hear what's going on back there unless you're paying attention. At first, I didn't think anything of it, just another spot for customers. But I started noticing things, small, subtle things. Every night, without fail, someone would sit there. Even on the slowest nights, when we barely had a handful of people come in, that table was always occupied at some point. And every time I went to clean it, right before close, it looked untouched. Cup rings, napkins, a straw wrapper or 2. But no sign of anyone ever sitting there for long. I'd wipe it down, turn around to do something else, come back, and the cup ring would be back. Not just a smudge, a clear circle of coffee, always in the same spot. I thought I was just being sloppy. Started scrubbing a little harder, using more disinfectant, watching it longer before turning away. Still came back. It became a kind of joke between me and Danny, the girl who worked earlier shifts. I mentioned it one night during shift overlap, said something like, I swear that table hates me. She smiled, a little tight-lipped. Yeah, that one's weird. Weird how? She paused like she didn't want to answer. Customers complain about it. Sometimes they say it's cold over there or that it smells different. Different? Like old flowers or mold. But only in that one spot. I laughed it off, but it stuck with me. The next night I noticed something else. There was a woman sitting at the table, middle-aged, brown coat, scarf too big for her neck. She was staring out the window. It wasn't raining. Nothing interesting outside. Just the glow of a street lamp and a few passing cars. She didn't have a drink. I watched her from the counter for a while, figuring maybe she was waiting for someone. After about 20 minutes, I walked over, pretending to sweep nearby. Excuse me, miss? Are you... Waiting on an order? She didn't move. I stepped a little closer. We're closing soon, just wanted to check. She turned her head slowly. Her eyes met mine. They were dry, a little glassy. No, she said, voice low, barely audible. He's already here. I didn't know what to say. My skin prickled. Before I could respond, she stood up and left. Just walked out the door. No drink, no phone, nothing. I checked the chair. It was warm. The other one wasn't. The air around the table felt still, like the kind of quiet you get when someone's holding their breath too long. After that, I started avoiding the table. I'd clean everything else and leave that one for last. Or not at all, if I could help it. It wasn't like anyone told me to. Just a feeling. Then, Omar, the new guy, got assigned to help close one night. I didn't warn him about the table. Didn't think to. He was fast, efficient, mopped floors, wiped counters, took out trash. Then I saw him go to the back corner. Don't forget that one, he said, pointing to the table. I froze for half a second. Yeah, sure. He started cleaning it, scrubbing hard. Then he stopped. But I looked over. He was just standing there, staring at the chair. You good? I asked. He didn't answer. I walked over. He turned to me real slow. There was someone here, he said quietly. Just now. I looked around. No one else in the store. No one walked in. He shook his head. I swear, I saw her sitting right here. I didn't push, just handed him the sanitizer and told him to finish up. He didn't show up for his next shift, didn't answer calls either. He questi no perbi. Text the next morning, said he wasn't feeling well, never came back. About a week later, I stayed late to help cover for Danny. It was almost midnight and the cafe was empty. I was stacking sleeves at the bar, humming to myself. I had one earbud in, nothing loud. Then I heard it, a soft scrape, like a chair sliding back on tile. I turned. That table, one of the chairs was pushed out, just slightly. I was alone. I walked over slowly. My hands felt cold, even though the place wasn't cold at all. There was a cup on the table. I hadn't made anything. No orders had come in for almost an hour. It was a tall cup, no name on it, lid slightly askew. I looked inside, black coffee, still steaming. I left it there. Told myself it was someone's old cup I hadn't seen. Maybe Danny forgot it. Maybe someone came in and left while I was in the back. Maybe. But I didn't believe it. That night, I dreamt of the woman in the scarf. She was sitting at the table, staring out the window again. Only this time, there was a man sitting across from her. I couldn't see his face, but I remember the feeling. Like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like I was interrupting something that had been going on for a very, very long time. I started checking the security footage, just out of curiosity. I'd scrubbed to different days, always around closing, always around 11:30 or later, and almost every time there was movement near that table, but the footage would glitch, just for a second or two, enough to blur a shape, a figure, a seated silhouette, then gone. Sometimes, the timestamp would freeze for a few seconds before skipping ahead. I never showed anyone. I never told Danny. What could I even say? Eventually, they moved the table. Corporate came in and wanted to rearrange the layout. Said it would improve flow. They shifted the furniture around, put that table near the front window instead. Brighter, more visible. I thought maybe that would change things. It didn't. The first night it was moved, I stayed after close to mop. As I passed by the new table spot, I noticed something under one of the chairs. A crumpled napkin. I picked it up. There was something written on it in faint ink, like it had been wet at some point. Just one line. You moved the chair. He's not happy. I didn't sleep that night. Still can't look at that table without feeling wrong. Sometimes I'll catch someone sitting there, and I wonder if they feel it too, that weight, that silence. But I never ask, and I always leave that one for last. Story number 4, the coworker who wasn't on the schedule. I've always liked night shifts. They're quieter, steadier, no rushes, no screaming kids, no overly complicated drink orders. Just me, the machines, and the soft hum of the cooler in the back. It's peaceful in a strange way. I usually close alone on Tuesdays and Thursdays. My manager trusts me. I've been there long enough. Sometimes someone new will shadow me, but not often. That night, I was told someone named Erin would be training with me. New hire. She was supposed to get a feel for the closing routine, trash runs, sanitizing, inventory checks. Nothing unusual. Erin showed up around 6 o'clock, right on time. She was maybe mid-20s. Pale skin, dark hair, in a loose bun. She wore a green apron over a thick gray hoodie, even though it was warm inside. Her eyes were soft, but tired, like she hadn't slept much the night before. "Hey," she said, "I'm Erin." Her voice was light, a little flat, but friendly enough. I introduced myself and handed her a cleaning cloth. We started wiping down tables side by side. She didn't talk much, which I appreciated. I'm not big on small talk, especially during closing. Everything felt normal until the middle of the shift. I was emptying the pastry case when I glanced up and saw her standing completely still behind the counter. She wasn't doing anything, just facing the espresso machine with her arms at her sides. "Erin?" I called out. She didn't move. I walked over. "You okay?" She blinked slowly and turned her head toward me. "Yeah," she said after a pause, "just thinking." I nodded and went back to wiping trays. I told myself she was probably just nervous. New job, new people. But the stillness stayed with me, the way her body had gone almost rigid. It's the little things that get under your skin, not the big dramatic stuff. It's when something feels almost normal, but not quite. Later, while we were refilling the syrup bottles, I asked her when she'd started working there. She said, "A while ago." I thought maybe I'd misheard. "Wait, this isn't your first day?" She smiled faintly. "Kind of is. I've trained before, but not here." I didn't know what to make of that, so I let it go. We finished the checklist. She followed instructions well, didn't make a mess, and barely spoke. By the time we closed, I was tired and ready to head out. "Thanks for the help," I said, locking up. She was standing near the door, hands in her hoodie pocket. She smiled again. "See you next time." That was it. She walked off toward the back lot. The next day, I mentioned her to my manager, just casually. She was pretty quiet, but solid. Good worker. My manager frowned. "Who?" "Erin, the new girl. She shadowed me last night." He pulled up the schedule on his tablet. "There's no Erin on staff," he said. I thought he was joking. "No, seriously. The girl in the hoodie. Dark hair. She was here the whole shift." He shook his head. "You were alone. I didn't schedule anyone to train with you. We haven't hired anyone new in 2 weeks." I didn't say anything else, just nodded. Slowly, like that made sense. But it didn't. That night, I came in a little early. I checked the login sheet. Only my name was signed in from the night before. No Erin, no sign of her. Still, I started thinking, maybe it was a scheduling miscommunication. Maybe someone had covered a shift and forgotten to sign in. I convinced myself of that for a while. Then she showed up again, 2 nights later. Same hoodie, same bun, same soft voice. "Hey," she said, like nothing was strange. I froze, but I didn't say anything. Just handed her a cloth and started wiping down the lobby. We worked quietly again. She didn't ask any questions, didn't act like anything was wrong. And for a second, I felt like maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'd imagined that whole conversation with my manager. Maybe Erin was real. Except, halfway through our shift, I noticed something. She didn't clock in. She didn't use the register. She didn't even touch the drinks. Just cleaned, mopped, took out trash. I asked her once gently, "You ever work daytime?" She didn't look up from the mop bucket. "No," she said. "I only like nights." That night I walked her out again, watched her disappear into the back lot. The lights were dim back there, but I remember the way she didn't look back, like she'd done it 100 times. The next morning, I checked the footage. I wasn't sure what I expected to see. I fast-forwarded to our shift, watched myself wiping tables, mopping, restocking. But there was no Erin. Just me, talking, moving, pausing in places. The footage showed me handing a cloth to no one. Mopping next to no one. Saying goodnight to the empty air. I didn't know how long I sat there watching. When my manager came in, I closed the laptop. He didn't ask what I was doing, and I didn't offer. I stopped asking questions after that. But I still saw her. She never missed a Thursday. Sometimes she'd just sweep. Sometimes she'd sit at the break table, not saying anything. Once I caught her humming softly. A strange little melody. Off key. Familiar, but I couldn't place it. One night I found her in the back storage room staring at the wall. I asked what she was doing. She turned to me slowly. "I used to work here," she said. Her eyes were darker than I remembered. "I think I still do." I couldn't bring myself to answer. That was the last night I saw her. She didn't come back after that. I don't know why. I didn't report it. Didn't mention it to anyone again. But a few weeks later, I was cleaning out a drawer under the register. Found an old name tag. Worn. Faded. Erin. I asked Danny if she remembered anyone by that name. She paused. "Yeah," she said. "That girl who—" Wait, didn't she? She stopped herself. "Didn't she what?" Danny looked uncertain. "I don't know. I think she quit. Or transferred. A while ago." I nodded. Put the tag back where I found it. And never brought it up again. Story number 5. Receipt number 666. I've worked register at our Starbucks for long enough that I barely need to think when I punch in an order. Grande caramel macchiato, venti iced Americano, add shot, oat milk, fingers move, receipt prints. Move on to the next. It's muscle memory. You stop looking at the numbers. At least I used to. It was a Friday, early evening. Just busy enough to stay distracted. We'd hit one of those odd stretches where people were polite, patient, even chatty. Remember, the playlist was off though. Some weird acoustic cover of a pop song I'd never heard before. Kind of slow, slightly distorted, like it was playing underwater. I thought the speakers were glitching. That's the kind of thing you think about during a rush. Background stuff. Anyway, around 6:45, a guy comes up to the counter. Tall, thin, kind of hollow-eyed, maybe in his late 40s. He wore a long coat despite the heat and didn't seem in a rush. He looked around like he'd just stepped into the store for the first time in years. "What can I get started for you?" I asked. He stared at the menu for a second too long, then said, "Just a tall, dark roast." Simple enough. I tapped it in, read back the total, and handed him the receipt. He took it slowly, and then stopped. He squinted at it. "Is this a joke?" I leaned over the counter to check. 0006. 66. I blinked. It didn't register right away, honestly. Just looked like a number. But something about the way he stared at it made me pause. "That's weird," I said. "Just a coincidence. We've done way more than 600 sales. Though, must've reset." He didn't respond. He just kept looking at it, his thumb brushing the edge of the paper. Then he folded it carefully and slipped it into his pocket. Didn't say another word. He didn't wait for the drink either. Just walked out. No eye contact. I thought about it the rest of the night. Not because of the number, really. More because of how he reacted, like he'd been expecting it. That night, I closed alone. Nothing unusual. Took out the trash, restocked cups, scrubbed the floor. The espresso machine made a soft hissing sound, the kind it makes when it cools down after a long day. I wiped down the counter one more time just to keep my hands busy. Then I noticed something on the register screen. A message. Not an error code, just 3 words. "Watch the tape." I didn't touch anything, just stared at it. The register screen doesn't display messages like that. It's not a computer. It doesn't even connect to the security system. I tried tapping it, nothing. Just went black. I locked the front doors. Fast. I didn't check the tapes that night. I went home, told myself it was some weird glitch. Maybe one of the baristas had changed a setting, maybe a prank. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, same message. "Watch the tape." So I did. After close, I opened the laptop in the back office and pulled up the feed from the time that customer came in. I scrubbed through until I saw him at the register. There he was. Long coat, thin face. I watch myself ring him up. He takes the receipt. And then he looks directly into the camera. Not a glance, not by accident. He stares at it, then he mouths something. I replayed it 4 times, watching his lips. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a curse, maybe some creepy warning. But it looked like he said, "He's counting." I closed the laptop. Didn't tell anyone. I didn't want to hear how I was overthinking it. I just wanted to forget. But the next day, things started shifting. Small things. The receipt printer would spit out blank paper before an order. The register would freeze whenever the transaction count ended in 66. Customers would pause mid-order, suddenly unsure of what they wanted, then apologize. Like they were embarrassed for no reason. And every night without fail, I got that message. "Watch the tape." One night I did. I gave in again. I fast-forwarded to closing. No customers, no movement. But then, at 6:45, the register turned on by itself. I wasn't near it. It printed a receipt. No order, no price, just the number. Number 0000666. The paper curled slightly, like something had breathed on it. And then, in the bottom right corner, letters appeared, like they'd been burned into the paper from the inside. Not done. I didn't tell my manager, didn't tell anyone, but I stopped working nights, started swapping shifts, offering to open instead. No one argued until last Thursday. Danny called out sick. We were short. Manager asked me to cover close. I said yes, even though everything in my body screamed no. I went in. The shift was slow, too slow. Felt like time wasn't moving. Around 6:40, I started glancing at the door, half expecting to see him walk in again. But no one came. No customers at all. I turned around to clean the bar. When I looked back at the register, the receipt printer had printed something again. It wasn't a transaction, it was just a line of text. He liked your face. I didn't move, didn't touch it. Then the lights above the counter flickered. Just once, barely a second. And I heard the espresso machine hiss like it was exhaling, like something was pleased. I left early that night. Didn't finish closing. Didn't care. Next morning, I asked the manager if we could wipe the register system. Maybe do a factory reset. I told him it was glitching. He agreed. I watched him reboot it. I watched the number count start fresh back to number 00001. Felt like breathing again after holding it for too long. But just now, about an hour ago, I stopped by on my day off, grabbed a drink, sat near the back window. The new guy at the register printed a receipt for a customer. I watched him fold it, then pause. He looked confused, a little pale. The customer smiled and took it, walked out without the drink. I stood up, walked to the counter casually, pretending I left something. "Hey," I said to the new guy, "what was that receipt number?" He looked down at the screen, then back up at me. 666. He tried to laugh it off, said, "Guess that means it's my lucky day." I didn't say anything. I just looked at the door, half expecting it to open again. Story number 6. The bathroom light that never turns off. We close at 11 o'clock. That last hour before closing is always the strangest. The lobby gets quiet, machines hum louder than usual, and everything starts to feel still, like the store holds its breath, waiting for us to finish. My job is simple. I handle cleanup on most weeknights, wipe down tables, restock the bar, take out the trash, and do the final checks. One of those checks is the bathroom light. We're supposed to turn it off before we lock up. Easy enough. There's a switch outside the door near the hallway. Flick it off, lock the bathroom door, and that's it. Except for the past month, it hasn't stayed off. First time it happened, I thought maybe I just forgot. I was already halfway home when I remembered I hadn't double-checked it. Came back the next morning and sure enough, it was on. That's not unusual, really. What was odd was that it happened again and again. Even when I knew I turned it off. I'd flip the switch, watch the light go out, then come back out front, only to glance down the hallway and see the soft yellow glow under the door again. Sometimes within minutes. The first time I saw that happen, I went back and opened the door. Nothing inside, just the usual smell of cleaning spray and a single paper towel someone didn't throw away. I turned it off again, closed the door, locked it, stood there for a few seconds, then walked away. About 5 minutes later, I walked past again. The light was on. I didn't hear the switch, didn't hear the door, just the faint hum of the bulb, like it had never been off at all. I told my manager. The next day said maybe the switch was loose or shorting out. He said he'd have maintenance look at it. They didn't find anything wrong, but the light kept coming back on. I started locking the bathroom before turning it off, just to see. Still came back on. I even pulled the bulb out once, just to be sure. It was back in the next night, literature buzzing softly. That's when I started leaving it alone. Didn't mention it again. Just added it to the list of things I pretended didn't bother me. Until one night I stayed late. It was around 11:30. I just finished taking the trash out and was sweeping near the hallway when I noticed the light again. I sighed, already annoyed at myself for even caring. But this time, something was different. The light wasn't just on. It was flickering. Slow, steady pulses, like someone was standing inside, moving back and forth in front of the sensor. But the door was locked. I stared at the gap under the door. The light kept shifting, like a shadow was moving. I didn't open it. I don't know why. Something about that light felt wrong, like it wasn't meant for me. So I left. Didn't even finish closing properly that night. The next few shifts, I kept my distance. Every time I passed the hallway, I felt it. That low, buzzing presence. Not a sound exactly, more like pressure in the air. I thought maybe I was just getting in my own head, sleep deprived, making something out of nothing. Then Danny mentioned it one night, out of nowhere. You ever notice that the bathroom light's always on? I froze. Yeah, I swear I turned it off twice tonight. It just came back. I looked at her, trying to read her face. She didn't seem scared, just unsettled. You think it's the wiring? She asked. I almost lied, but I didn't. No, I said quietly, I don't think it's the wiring. She didn't ask what I meant, and I didn't explain. That night I stayed after close again. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Stupidity. I waited until everything was done, lights dimmed, music off. Then I walked toward the hallway. The door was closed. The light was on. I stood there just a few feet away, listening. Nothing, just that faint, steady hum. Then I heard it, a soft click, like a switch being flipped. The light turned off. I stared at the door. A beat passed, then another, and then, click, it turned back on. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Another beat, click, off again. Then silence. I turned and left. Didn't look back. Didn't even lock the front door properly. I called in sick the next day. Didn't go back for a week. When I did, nothing was said. Business as usual. I avoided that hallway like it had teeth. Let Danny check it when she was on shift. She never said anything else about it. Maybe she stopped noticing. Maybe it stopped for her, but not for me. Last night I had to close alone. Again. No way around it. I told myself I'd just skip that part. Leave the light on. It wasn't worth it. But as I was about to leave, I noticed the hallway was dark. That had never happened. The light was off. The door was slightly open. For the first time in weeks, completely quiet. I stepped closer, cautiously, pushed the door open just a little. Everything looked normal. Toilet lid closed, sink clean, no trash on the floor. But on the mirror, written in fog that hadn't been there a second ago, was one word: stay. I didn't wait. I left. I locked up. I didn't look back. I haven't told anyone yet. I'm not sure I will. The strangest part? I checked the mirror this morning before we opened. Nothing there. But the light's been off all day. And for the first time, I think that's worse. If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more quiet, unsettling horror like this. And hey, there are more creepy tales waiting for you right here on the screen, so make sure to check those out next. Got your own eerie experience? Share it in the comments below. I'd love to read your story. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.